Hello everyone and welcome to episode 28 of the 4LadsHadADream podcast. My name's Stevie and joining us this morning as usual co-host, he is the chief Rangers writer at the Herald and Glasgow Times Group, Mr. Chris Jack. Chris, how are you?
Morning Stevie, how are we? As we were just saying, I think this is the earliest interview, either podcast terms or professional terms, earliest interview I've ever done. But it's certainly going to be worth it. Really looking forward to hearing the guests we've got on this week. And I'm sure the Rangers fans certainly will as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we were having to get up this early, we asked our good friend and fellow co-host as well. She is, of course, Rangers tour guide over at Ibrox Stadium. Well, obviously not at the moment, but she will be hopefully soon. And she's also Scotland's FIFA fan representative for all things women's football as well. Miss Mhairi McKenzie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Surprisingly well, considering it's very early. But I'm really looking forward to today's podcast. And can't wait to get started.
So, without further ado, our podcast guest this morning is Kenny Miller. Kenny, of course, played for Rangers over 3 spells. He won various trophies for the club, including 3 league titles, all under Walter Smith. He also won a Scottish Cup. He also won a League Cup, very famously scoring a fantastic header and a 1-0 win over St Mirren. He then rejoined the club for the 3rd spell when we were in the lower leagues and helped us win the championship and also a Petrofac Cup under Mark Warburton. He scored over 100 goals for the club. He had a 1-3 record, scoring goals in the Champions League, scoring goals all throughout the lower leagues and also in Scottish Cup, League Cup finals. He's the oldest player ever to score a hat-trick for Rangers. He really was a fantastic player over the spell. So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Kenny Miller.
Good morning, guys.
Hi, Kenny. Thanks for joining us. As I said, much appreciated. Really looking forward to seeing who you've chosen in your 11.
It's maybe more likely going to be like a 30, to be honest with the amount of names that are going to get mentioned, but we'll try and narrow it down to a starting 11 for you.
You've also played at club level and international level, played with some great keepers in your time, Kenny. Who's the guy that gets the nod, though?
Like you say, played with a lot of good goalkeepers over my career. At the club, I think obviously 2 stand out. When I was a young lad back in 2000, Stefan Kloss was the goalkeeper at the time, and he was an outstanding goalkeeper. And obviously I had a year there and seen everything that he was about, and he was very good. But for me, it has to be Alan McGregor. For me, brilliant character, everything the club needs, a winner first and foremost, and then all the mental side that come along with playing with Glasgow Rangers. He's got that in abundance. The kind of guy who thrives on going to Celtic Park and performing to the best of his abilities. So he's when they've seen that over the years, whether it be European games or big old firm games, he produces huge saves. But he's just a fantastic goalkeeper and everything the club needs in terms of character and mentality.
What's Alan like to have as a teammate in the dressing room? You mentioned that mentality in terms of driving boys on and always demanding standards, but he seems a good type of guy to have for the worky down times, a bit of chill time as well.
Well, I think everybody knows the off-field antics of the goalie. He's, again, like you say, very, very good teammate. The thing is about him, there was a perception maybe that he's a bit of a joker, a bit of a kind of jack the lad off the field and things. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that when you put the work in, because Alan was one of the hardest working guys at the football club. He would always be in the gym doing his work prior and post training sessions, and I'm sure again now that he's get to that tender-old age and he's creeping closer to 40, I'm sure he'll be looking after himself even more, and you can see that still that he does. Yeah, you might pick up wee kind of injury issues and things, but for the most part is he'll be one of the first names on Stephen's team sheet, I'm sure, and for all the reasons that we've already gave, the standards, the qualities, his ability, his mentality, everything that goes along there. But a fantastic teammate, great guy to have in the dressing room. But when it comes to working time, when the serious head goes on and the working face goes on, and that's why we get the nod. He's definitely probably one of the best. And I said I had worked with many a good goalkeeper, but for me, he would just get the nod over a few.
Would you see Alan still having a couple of years left in him? Yeah, I asked Stephen Gerrard about his contract maybe 5-6 weeks ago, and he was saying now's not the time to discuss it, but he seemed keen to still have him in and around the place. Would you see Alan going on for another couple of years yet? And when you look at his performances, he's certainly not slowing down any.
Yeah, I think having these kind of characters about the building. Listen, if someone comes through that's better than Alan, I'm sure he'll be the first one to say, listen, a younger player who's just as good, who can do the job, he'll be willing to maybe give that jersey. Not without a fight, but I'm sure he would obviously see the progression that's probably needed. It's going to have to happen at some time. But at the moment, there's no one better. And that's the thing. So I'm sure when the time's right, that they'll sit down and address the situation. If Alan feels his body is capable, which by his performances looks like it is, then I'm sure he would love to. Listen, he loves the club. He absolutely loves the club, and everybody knows that. So getting him back for me was it was a key moment a few seasons ago. Getting him and Steve Davis, I think Steve came 6 months later. Getting both the guys in the building at that time was crucial to getting that mentality back to the football club.
If we move on to your defence, Kenny, are you going with a back three, a back four? What's your preference here, and who's the first name on the team sheet?
You know, I'll definitely have 4 defenders across the back. Centre halves, it's a tough one. I've played with so many. First time there, Craig Moore, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. Centre back, big ammo, outstanding. Players to have alongside in the team. Again, big characters as well. Huge voices and leaders in the dressing room. But again, a lot of these guys when I first played, when we're going to go through some proper football players here, some world-class footballers over the course of the next half hour or so. But it was hard for me to maybe even put them into the team. And when I've sat down and thought about a best Rangers 11, I'm going to look at guys that I've maybe spent a bit longer with, rather than just the actual quality of the player. So guys like Craig Moore, like I said, Amaruso, when I was in that first spell, they were unbelievable footballers. I mean, I spoke to Craig not too long ago. Obviously, I think he's back in Scotland at the moment, to be honest. But obviously, he's got the Australian connection things, and everybody knows him over here as well. So I've spoke to him quite a few times since we've been here. So he would be one of the guys I would be thinking about throwing in there. But I think the first one I'd go for would be Big Davy Weir. He obviously came to the football club when Walter brought him in when I think he was 35 at the time. I think it was for a wee 6 month stint just to kind of get to the end of the season. It turned out to be a 5 year deal, 6 year deal. Ended up being at the football club, and he was a fantastic guy. But listen, club and country was there, and still playing Champions League football at 40 years old was a huge feat and a fantastic achievement and testament to his professionalism. But what Davy was again, and I'm no doubt he's come across him both as a player and an assistant when he came up to the club with Mark Warburton. And he's softly spoken. He's a calm guy, but an ultimate pro, top leader, top captain, and one of the first. Like I say, to play at Champions League and to play at that level when you're 40 years old is an incredible achievement. So he would definitely be in there at centre back. Whether he goes in alongside Craig Moore or potentially his partner at the time, Majid Bugera, that's a bit up for debate, or Big Ammo. But I think I'd go for Craig Moore. I think I'm going to go for Craig Moore based on, and I've done these things about 4 or 5 times. I keep changing my team all the time. But I think I'd go for Craig Moore. Once I've kind of thought about it, what he brought, it'd be so tough. And again, one of the traits that I'll have throughout my team will be that mentality, that strength of character. And Big Oz had it in abundance. He represented the club a number of years, obviously right through that real successful spell towards the end of the 90s as well. So he's a wonderful player, really tough opponent. Even in training, going up against him, he trained as he played, which is again really important for performing on a Saturday. So I think having they two in centre back would have been a real test for any strikers coming up against them.
You also played up against both of them at different stages of the career, playing with and against Craig at the start of your Rangers career, and then also Davy at the end. How did their styles compare, and how did you fare against the two of them in training? Did you ever get the better of them, or are the two of them just that good? You're toiling at times.
No, listen, again, they were always good tests for different reasons. Davy was obviously getting to that in the later stages of his career, but his reading of the game, that's why he was able to play, because he would never claim to be the quickest player alive or quickest defender. But as he got older and started to understand the game, and he was just that step or two ahead of any striker that we came up against. Like I said, and that's why he was able to play so long at the level he did. Craig was real hard. I mean, a really good player as well. Both of them liked to play. Both of them could really pass. Really good pass with the ball. But Craig was all in. I mean, I remember some of the tackles I watched him as a fan watching them play, and also as an opponent up against him in training and things. It was so tough. Loved the tackle. Embodied everything that you need in a character to play at that football club. So there would have been a real phenomenal kind of pairing at the back, a real test, like I said, for any strikers to get the better of them. Not only because of their abilities and things, but because of their knowledge of the game and their reading of the game. That was something that really kind of stood out for me about both of them.
Who have you got playing to the right of them? Who's your right back?
Well, it's a tough one, because again, when you play with that squad that I came into Ibrox in 2000, the players that were in it were phenomenal. But I think the current right back, the captain James Tavernier, obviously had a good 3 years with James between 2015 and 2018, and he's really grown into the role that he's got at the moment. Listen, he's always a fantastic player. I think we've seen that for the minute he came to the club. Wonderful right back, but for a right back slot, I think I would go for Fernando. Wonderful footballer. Yeah, he had his moments off the field, which again we all know. But sometimes these outstanding footballers need that wee bit of a break, and they need that bit of a blowout. And he was a wonderful footballer, really good teammate. Again, came to the club at the same time as me as a young player, and yeah, he had a lot of Dutch guys alongside him to help him. But again, he really took on what it meant to play for the football club. Then become a captain. Moved into a centre midfield role as well, which was testament to the abilities that he had as a footballer, and genuinely just a really good servant to the football club over the year, and over a real successful spell. And obviously it was tragic and things in the news. Fernando's obviously illness and him passing, but what a fantastic teammate, and people will always tell you good stories about him and have fond memories of both him on the field and off the field. But yeah, wonderful football player, and we'd get the nod at right back.
I think the tributes that came about, not just from Rangers fans, but from across Scottish football, and certainly the guys that played with him, when he's hardly passed away, I think that probably told you everything about the game mentality that he had, two, how nice a guy he was at times when he wasn't doing mad things, but also just, as you say, what a great player he was. And the tributes that came in, they're from the heart, and really people really appreciated just what he gave to Rangers, as you say, in so many different roles.
And the thing is, right, you see all these guys that have came and gone over the years, like the club leaves a mark on people. It's a special place. And you see that when the kind of affiliation, the guys that maybe have only been at the club maybe a year or two, sometimes obviously a little bit longer, 3, 4 and 5. But whether they've been a year or whether they've been 8, 10 years, the club always has a special place for them. And I think it's down to the fans, down to the support and the adoration that they get from the supporters. You think when Big George comes back, or would it be Michael or Arthur or Bert Conterman comes back, like these guys absolutely love the place, and they're loved by the fans. And I think that's a huge. A lot's got to be made of how good the fans and how welcome they make people feel. There's a lot of negative things that get said about football fans, but when you've got guys that are coming from different countries, whether they be German, Dutch, Italian, Australian, coming to the football club and still, and the club leaving like the mark there leaves on them, again, it's huge to how they're getting welcomed and how much adoration they get.
And the final place in your back four, who's in at left back?
Well, again, it would be down to, I've got three options over different spells. It would be Arthur Newman. Again, we don't even really talk about the abilities that he had. First spell, it would be Sasa Papic, who was an absolute reliable servant in at that position for a number of years as well. And then you had my good friend Lee Wallace. And when I'm picking my best teammate guys that I've played with, Arthur Newman always gets a nod. But by asking who the best teammates were for playing, Arthur was a fantastic footballer. He really was. Dutch international, however many times he played at World Cups, European Championships, whatever it was. And again, if I'm picking a best left back that I played with, Arthur would get the nod every single time. But I think for a teammate that I spent a bit longer with, it would have been Lee Wallace. Based on, he came through the journey, the long journey back, what he gave to the club, the sacrifices that he made, Listen, I've got nothing but admiration for the man. Obviously, we went through a real tough situation together as well, which, to be honest, brought us, we were close as it stands, but brought us closer together. And, again, wonderful footballer, great leader. Took on, obviously came to Rangers from Hearts as a younger player, but absolutely embraced everything that was required to play for this great club. And he was, again, became a wonderful captain, a real leader. And you know what, I've seen him grow over the 4 or 5 years that I kind of knew Lee at Rangers. Because even prior to me coming back in 2014, I'd came in over a couple of the close seasons when I was in MLS, so I got to know him, I got to see how he operated and see how he worked on a daily basis. And he had the standards. He had the standards that were needed, not only to play at the club, but to captain the club. And I know it was something he really took on board when he was given that armband. It was something, it was a real proud moment for him, and he felt it was a privilege to wear that the amount of times that he did. So for me, as a teammate, as a person and a leader, and obviously over the 4 years that I played with him there, I would probably just give him the nod just ahead of Arthur. Let's say, if it was down to a best left back, like I've done many a time over these kind of things, it probably would be Arthur. But as a teammate at Glasgow Rangers, I would be picking Lee Wallace. If
this season goes how we hope it's going to go, and Rangers do go on and win the league, also a lot of people will look back at everybody that's played their part over the last 8 years or so, and over the journey, and Lee Wallace's place in that conversation will never be forgotten for everything that he did for the club, everything that he went through with the club, and the sacrifices that he made. Did you ever get a sense there was any regret about him staying, or some of the things that he went through, or how it ended, or is it just a privilege from his point of view, just how proud he was to represent the Rangers the way that he did?
That's it. You've nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. At no point did I ever hear him talk about potential opportunities that he missed. Things that, again, even his international career could have suffered by the fact that he was playing in the 3rd division, 2nd division, and ultimately the championship outside the top flight. At not one moment did you hear him moan about it or make any. He would never use the sacrifices that he made for any reasoning or any excuses. He absolutely loved the place, and what happened obviously hurt both of us deeply, and still does to an extent. But I know he was a wonderful player. He absolutely loved representing the club. To get the captaincy, I know how proud and how privileged they felt in getting that honour. And like I said, these guys that will be throughout this team are everything that the club needed, and they had all the skill sets to play and handle the weight of that jersey. And he's another one that just took on every bit of demand, every bit of standards, rose to the occasion, never hid. And like I said, just a fantastic teammate to be alongside and fantastic captain.
So Kenny, I'm going to move you on now to your midfielders. I'm assuming you're going to go for 4 in the middle as well. What's your initial setup?
I will go for 4. It might not be 2 wingers and 2 midfielders. It might just be 4 midfielders across, because there's that many really, really top quality footballers that I need to try and get into this. We'll start with the obvious one. Again, another thing about this, when we get to the end, there might be 4, 5, 6 captains that will be in this team over the course of it as well. So we'll start with, in my opinion, one of the best players that I've played with, never mind just at Rangers, over the course of my career. This was Barry Ferguson. So again, someone that had a few issues off the field, which maybe tainted his time at the club. But for me, and I think for the majority of his supporters, they know exactly what he was. He was a dyed-in-the-wool Rangers fan. He would bleed blue. He was at the club since he was probably 8 to 10 years old. Got the captaincy at such a young age, and have that responsibility at that football club. Actually, it speaks volumes for the player's ability, but also speaks volumes for how much Dick entrusted him to take on that role and to give him that responsibility. And what he done was he led by example on the park. For someone who, in this day and age, he would probably be labelled a 6, which was his number, a kind of deeper midfielder. But Barry wasn't a deeper midfielder. Barry done everything. He started the game, he finished the game, he controlled the game. He'd done absolutely every area that you would want in a midfielder. He would, listen, we all know he wouldn't mind a tackle as well. He would never ever shirk away from any challenges, physical battles with anybody. So having him in the middle to absolutely control the game would be crucial to everything. And he was, over the course of his spells at Rangers, he was a fantastic football player. It was a pleasure to play alongside him for both club and country. Again, sometimes I think people forget actually how good he was. But I remember watching him in European games prior to actually coming to Rangers. I think he was 18, 19, 20-year-old, and he was absolutely running the games against some top quality opposition. I think he came up against Mateus one night, and again gave as good as he got. I remember, I think it was a game against Parma I was watching, and he just ran the show. You know, that's the abilities he had. He had the ability to take the game by the scruff of the neck if it was needed and haul Rangers through. It was and again, in that dressing room in 2000, you think of the players that were in it, and not just the players, but the midfielders that he was up against. At that time, you had Claudio Reyna, you had Tugai, you had Barry Ferguson, you had George Alberts, you had Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, all fighting for sometimes 2, maybe 3 slots, because George or Gio would maybe have went on to the left. But again, Fergie was always the one that was in the centre. Who was alongside him in there it would have been mixed, but he was always there in the centre. So again, that tells you how good he actually was when he was not only holding his own, but leading these guys onto the football field at Ibrox and performing at the levels that he did. So he would be the first midfielder I would have on the list.
I think it speaks volumes, like you said, how good Barry was. But how did you get on with him off the park? You know, obviously you played with him at international level as well as at club level. Have you got anything to tell us about, you know, how your relationship built over your time at the club?
Well, obviously we were 2 young boys at the time. Fergie's a couple of years older than me. But I came to the club when I was 20, so Fergie was kind of 21, maybe just turned 22. So we were young boys, young Scottish boys. You had Scott Wilson there at the time as well, who was a similar age. I think he might have been just a little bit older than Barry as well. But with a good Scottish contingent with Neil McCann, Billy Dodds was there at the time, Scotty Wilson. Craig Moore was always an honorary Scot, like the way he spoke and how long he'd been at the club. It was just like having another Scot there. But Fergie, obviously, with how close we were with age, but we become like pretty good mates over that spell. And then when you link up with the country, with the national team over the next few years as well, it's a real kind of long relationship. When you think for 2000 through to maybe about 2010 when he left Rangers and then he had all the international, his international career finished as well. So it's a kind of 10-year long kind of relationship you've got at both club and country, you know. So you become close, you get to know really each other's games, which obviously helps you play and perform to the best of your abilities. So yeah, I got on great with Fergie. You knew what he was. Again, he was a winner, so you had to accept that for him, and he demanded such a high standard for his teammates around him. Listen, not everybody could meet those standards, and that's why he'll always be labelled as a kind of moany bastard. But excuse the French, but he will. That's what he was. He wanted the best, and he expected his teammates to be at the same level, and he demanded that. And you know what? Over the course of the years, I played with a couple of guys like that. I played with Paul Ince at Wolves for a number of years, and he was the exact same. They expect the same levels, the same high standards as what they guys have got. And you know what it does? It brings you up. You either bring up, you either sink or swim. You either get to the level, or you ultimately probably won't play in the team. So these guys are great. Having these guys that demand proper daily habits, good daily habits, and the high standards every single day, it takes other players up to another level as well. Who
else would be your next pick after Barry?
Again, I'll probably go for. I'm thinking on my feet here. I've a lot of thought about it. I've probably changed my mind about 15 times over who I would be putting in each position. But I think I would go for Steve Davis. I'll be in there somewhere. Again, played with him over that 2008 to 2011. I know he came on loan initially and was part of the team that went to the UEFA Cup final and that amazing run. And you've just looked at all the things that he's achieved over the last couple of months by becoming Northern Ireland's highest cap player. He's again captain. He captained he captained Rangers as well. Just a fantastic footballer, really good guy, humble, down to earth, fantastic footballer. And for me, if this season goes the way we all want it to go, guys like him and Alan McGregor have played a huge part. Yeah, listen, the success has not been there in the last 2 years, but I don't know about you guys, but I can see the progression in the team as each year went by. Last year I thought it could have been the year, but then obviously after the break it kind of came tumbling down in that kind of 6-7 weeks after the winter shutdown. But again, I think there's a different hunger there. There's a different feel to the team even for last year. So guys like Alan and Stephen are going to be absolutely crucial to see it through, because they've done it. You know, they've done it. They've lived it. They've won the leagues. They've won the cup, so they know what it takes. They know how hard it will be in these March, April times to go over the line. It's the hardest thing to do is to see it out So the experience of these two guys, and obviously the manager as well. The manager's been over the course and distance as well. So he'll every day, I'm sure, since they came into the building, have been demanding these standards and the expression how important the mental side of playing for big clubs is. So having these guys in the building is going to be huge for the team, hoping to achieve that. So Steve was a wonderful teammate to play alongside. I think he actually gets underrated a little bit, to be honest with you, for how good he is. But he would be in there alongside Fergie, whether it be right of Fergie or whether it be next to him in the centre. I'm not too sure.
I think he's one of these guys that you don't really appreciate until you don't see him in the team, and then you see that there's a quality about him that he brings to the squad. Even, you know, as he has got older, he still obviously dominates that midfield just now for us, and is competing to be that starting 11 every single week. But who would be your next midfielder?
I think I would have Giovanni in there. Incredible footballer. Again, look at where he went on to after Rangers. I mean, playing at the levels that he played at, it would be probably crazy not to have him in our team. So whether, again, it might be Devo kind of inside right, it might be Fergie inside Devo, and it might be Giovanni next to Fergie. And the one thing the three of them are just wonderful footballers. Giovanni obviously can then transferred to be a left back when he went to Barca, and then he had, when he was in the Dutch national team, I think he kind of took over maybe that role for Arthur actually. But he's again incredible football player, midfielder by trade, wonderful passer, could get goals, great energy, great vision and awareness. And I think having that left-sided balance alongside Barry, and you know what you would have in this midfield is just a real flexibility for them to go and do anything that they want in the game, whether it be attack, that they're clever enough to kind of fill in and hold the kind of disciplined positions that you would need from that. So they were this wonderful football player. So I think it'd be crazy not to throw Giovanni in there alongside Barry and Steve. So
is your last pick a more right-sided kind of player, or are you going to throw in another slightly different one in here?
If I'm going right to left and I went Devo, Fergie, Giovanni, I'll tell you what I'll do. This is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Fergie as a sitter. I'm going to play Devo to the right of that. I'm going to play Giovanni to the left of that, and I'm going to play Ronald de Boer at the top of the diamond. We signed Ronald from Barcelona back in 2000. Like, for Rangers to sign a player for Barcelona is just absolutely incredible. Obviously, you had the Dutch connection through Dick and through all the players that were in the team, but his knee was a wee bit of an issue when he came to the club. But quality-wise, like, unbelievable football. I know his brother joined, I think it was the year after or a couple of years after, and to get that level of football player at the club was just absolutely phenomenal. Came in, made a huge impact. Another guy the fans really took to, another guy who absolutely loves coming back and loves having that affiliation with the football club. And but an incredible player, just at the levels he came in. And he came in and he just brings his professionalisms and things. And that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot by some top players, but I think he had to put a lot of work in off the field as well, based on the injury that he had. But he put so much work in, and his performances and his abilities were incredible. So that's quite a formidable four in there, having Fergie at the bottom of a diamond, Ronald at the top, and flanked by Devo and Giovanni. I think that's quite a formidable four in the midfield.
That is that's a very, very impressive four in the midfield. Certainly would love to see a Rangers squad of that. At peak, it would be amazing. So going towards, obviously the forwards. Going towards your forwards in your team.
Two of my former strike partners up top. First one, obviously the goal scoring machine, Big Boydie, would be up there, and he would be guaranteeing us 30 goals a season, probably 40 actually, with the amount of service he would get with Devo, Fergie, Ronald and Giovanni. So it would be he would get us untold amounts of goals. Again, wonderful teammate. He is a joker, an absolute joker. Loved the off-field pranks and was great for the dressing room over that spell of 5 years that he was at the club. Again, played one club and country. And the thing with Boydie, you knew you were getting goals. I mean, I think in the 3 years in the 2 years, 2008 to 2010, that we played up front together, I think he got 30 odd and high 20s. he's looking at 60 goals over 2 years, so he's probably averaging like 29, 30 goals over the course of the 2 seasons we played. So that's guaranteed. And again, that's so important for a team. Yeah, people always point fingers at, but he never done this, he never done that. Okay, well, if we can get somebody that can do a lot and still get 30 goals, then listen, we'll sign him. But I don't think you find too many of their players about. So he would get the number 9 slot in that team. And partnering him was one of my strike partners from the first spell, Michael Moles. I remember watching Michael in the Champions League the year before that came, so it must have been the 99-2000 season. And he got injured in the Champions League that year, if I remember right. But in the games leading into that injury, both domestically and in Europe, it was absolutely phenomenal. That turn that he's got, I know everybody knows, you don't even need to say it's the Moles turn. It's been... I've tried to adopt that into my game. Had a week and a half Moles turn at Wembley when I managed to get my goal in my last Scotland appearance, and that was something that strikers all over anybody would have seen it. You thought, what actually has he done there? And then when you break it down, it's so hard to defend. But he had it like a tripwire. It would go one way, it would shift the ball the other way, and it would be off. When he came back for his injury, once I was at Rangers, and he came back for his injury, maybe I lost. I wouldn't say a yard, I wouldn't even say half a yard, but that wee maybe quarter yard that got him away might have just been missing in his step. But what an incredible player. And he could do a lot. Listen, he would not get the amount of goals Boydie would get, but he would avoid getting 30 goals, and Michael would absolutely get you into the 20s. But it would bring so many more goals and so much more to the team. But his hold-up play, his clever runs, He's bringing other people into play and assisting, maybe not actually getting direct assist, but by bringing other people into play and getting the ball and up the field and getting other teammates into positions to either score goals or set goals up. He was an incredible player. Really, really enjoyed playing up front with him over the games we did in that year, 2000, 2001. So, that would be my front two. So, like looking back through that team, the goalie in goals, Fernando, Davy, Craig Moore, Lee Wallace, Fergie, Davo, Giovanni, Ronald, Boydie, and Michael up top. We'd love to have that team back in their prime. Like you say, it'd be great to see them. And a lot of goals, some fantastic attacking, fast-flowing football you would see as well. But it's some great names, some great memories when even going through
it. Kenny, that's a phenomenal side you've picked. The great thing about that for me is I've enjoyed listening to that because I've had a season ticket for roughly around 23, 24 years. So these guys are all guys that I've watched and kind of idolised. But it was funny that you said we're about to talk about some of the goals you've scored, and you scored over 100 goals for Rangers. But one of my favourites actually was that goal you talked about at Wembley. Gary Cahill, I'm sure it was marking you. And he was a phenomenal defender, and you completely sold him. And the funny story was, I was up in Hindland in a pub watching that, and the whole place erupted, everybody jumping about, and I'm jumping about shouting, Michael Moles turn, Michael Moles turn. Nailed it there. That must have been some moment.
I walked into the dressing room after that and says, Big Gaz got Cahill, Big Gaz got Molesed. That's what it was, he got Molesed. So it was one of these movements in terms that the minute I saw it, I started working on it. I started trying to get in my game. Listen, nobody was as good as him at it because he had it so sharp and so good in his game. But I really tried to incorporate that into my game. And, I did over the years. And that there is obviously highlighted at Wembley because it led to that goal. But the amount of times that I've kind of thrown that in training or thrown it in games it's really worked hard to try and get that down to an art, and he was the first one I seen it do, so it was interesting. Yeah, that goal was christened Molesy. That was the Molesy.
You scored, Kenny, as we spoke about, over 100 goals for the club. Something we like to do is ask some of your favourite goals, and I've looked through a lot of them again while we were thinking, and you really did score some crackers. I remember one in Motherwell at home in a 6-1 game. It was just a snapshot that went in and off the bar. Was a lovely finish, a goal up in Inverness. But let's talk about some of your favourite goals. What would be the first Rangers goal that kind of springs to mind?
First one I think would be probably, again, if I'm going through for the first spell through, would maybe be obviously you've got the 5 goals against St Mirren, which was an incredible day that day. Everything seemed to go on. But it was the next game, the Monaco game. So it was my first Champions League appearance. I wasn't even sure I was going to get a game. I wasn't sure I was going to get the nod going into that game, despite scoring 5 on the Saturday. It was my first Champions League. Listen, this is why you go to these clubs, you know. It's why you go and sign for Rangers. These big games, win trophies, cup finals, win leagues, and play in the Champions League. We've all watched it. I watched it prior to going to the club. You stand, the music's on, the hairs on the back of your neck are going up. As a fan, it's brilliant watching it. As a player being in it, it's even better. So to get the nod in that game, it's my first appearance in the competition. It was huge, and to break the duck and open the score in the first 2 minutes was incredible. And again, you think of some of the guys that I've mentioned over this call. It's been, I think it was Fergie to George, or George to Arthur. Arthur puts the cross in, and I'm lucky enough it finds its way through to me at the back post, and I managed to luckily shin one off the defender's back and go in the back of the goal. So it was a real big moment. First Champions League appearance, first Champions League goal in front of a full house at Ibrox. It was an amazing feeling. So that would probably be one of the first ones that stands out.
Obviously, Kenny, Ibrox on a European night is fantastic, and you were really starting to show that kind of promise. You had scored obviously at Rugby Park, then the goals against St Mirren, and then Monaco. What would be the next goal that springs into your mind over your time at Rangers?
Well, I would jump forward now. I would jump forward to 2008. And obviously, we all know the history, we all know the past, what happened in 2006, 2007. So coming back to the club, there was a lot of opposition, potentially to me coming back, whether it was a small minority or whether it was a large group. Again, it's something that never really bothered me. Walter was bringing me back, you know, and I knew he wouldn't have brought me back if he didn't think it was the right thing to do. So the first Old Firm was huge. It was huge for me as a player, hoping to kind of get accepted back into the Rangers family. And obviously the game, we won 4-2. Daniel scored a wonderful goal in the first half. I managed to get a decent wee ball into the ground in the second half. Pedro hit a worldie to make it 3-1. And Arthur Boruc dropped one right on my toe to just tap it in for 4-1. It was an incredible day, incredible result for me. Scoring goals I can still feel the feeling now of scoring goals in Old Firm games. There is actually nothing better. Such a big occasion, huge game. I mean, you're going away to Celtic Park and you manage to get a couple of goals and you come away with a 4-2 win. And it was 4-1 at the time. They scored at the end of the game. It was a comfortable win. And for me to get the goals and us to get the result, more importantly, I think it was a huge game for me. A huge game for me going back to Rangers and getting that result and getting the goals in that game.
Yeah, that was a tremendous volley. I remember that like yesterday. Kevin Thompson picks out at the back post. You had to connect with that one perfectly. There was only one place that was really going, and to set you off and running, it must have been the perfect moment. And I think that interestingly, when you say that about fan opposition and things like that, I think after you do something like that, even the smallest minority, and it was a small minority, that said they wouldn't cheer Kenny Miller or whatever, and as soon as that happens, I think it wipes everything out. It must have been an extremely pleasing moment. And that just, I suppose for you as well, not that you maybe needed it, but it just gives you the confidence then just to power on.
No, it did. It's like, it's like I said, it was one of these things that when it's Walter Smith, that you put your full trust in Walter Smith. And I'm sure fans did as well. I mean, there's nobody better to make these calls about who he feels would represent the badge and the jersey. So it was an incredible game. It was. And you say it went a long way, hopefully helping me being accepted back to the football club. But more importantly, it's the first Old Firm game of a season. And listen, I was pretty fortunate over the next 3 years that I managed to get quite a few goals in these games, because these games can make or break a player. They can create heroes, they can create legends. But the same way they can break you if you don't get the goals at the time. And it's something, think of all the goals that Alfredo's got at the moment, and it will come. It'll come for Alfredo soon, hopefully the next game. But to not get that, it becomes a bit of a burden. It does become a bit of a burden, and it's something every time an Old Firm, they forget about the 100 goals that he'll score, but they're still talking about the one that he hasn't. So it's something that will come. But like I say, these games can make or break a player, and I was pretty fortunate that I got quite a few goals in these games.
Yeah, that was one thing you did do, Kenny, without, sounding too much of a fanboy, if it's okay. The big games, you were always there and scoring big goals. Where would you go next in terms of your next memory goal-wise?
Well, again, it's an interesting because you always look at these big goals and the big games, and when you score, and by the way, you're right. There's something you think about other goals. Like when I'm talking about fantastic goals, there was that one against Motherwell. That was in the first 2 minutes of the game as well. It might have been one of my first touches. You go and wrap one into the top corner, and that gets you off on a 6-1 win. And but I think from there, again, I'd probably fast forward to the next Old Firm game, the first Old Firm game, the next season. Like that kind of became a bit of like my fixture, that one. I managed over the 3 years, I managed to get braces in each of the first Old Firm games in 3 years in a row. So clearly, like that first Old Firm game, clearly, obviously, was looking forward to it for the minute the fixtures were out. So when you go into, so it was at Ibrox, it was my first Old Firm goals at Ibrox. Again, we're 2-0 up after 14 minutes, and I've managed to get a couple of goals. So it was, again, incredible games, incredible atmosphere, and getting the 2 goals in that game. Again, more importantly, it's a game that we won. We won 2-1. And getting the goals in that game was crucial. I just never managed to finish it off and close it out and get the hat-trick in an Old Firm game. But I think the closest I would have came would have been the next year. But Walter said Ali took me off for about 20 minutes to go when I was going for a hat-trick. So I wasn't too happy about that. But it was, again, big games, big goals, great results. And they're goals that definitely stick in the memory. You know what? I actually remember pretty much every goal I've scored. But these ones really stick in the memory. So, and again, I think it's what it means. It means to the club, to the fans, and to everybody involved in the game.
I think the one thing that the memory that sticks out of that first goal, Kenny, was when you went through, you were quite far out, and you almost placed that. You literally rolled it past Boric at the time.
That's been kind, by the way. That's been kind. I absolutely sclaffed it off my shin, and it crawled into the back of the net.
Oh, right, okay. So it wasn't quite the kind of placed finish that I was thinking.
It wasn't the connection I was looking for. Let's just say that.
And then obviously the second, you've showed good strength. You've muscled in between Leuven's, and it was a bit different because you went for power and it's went through. Again, a special memory.
No, yeah, it was. Again, I think it was an Alan McGregor assist, actually. It's another rare thing about that goal. So, yeah, we managed to clear it, and it was a kind of battle between myself and Glenn Leuven's. I managed to win that battle. And again, you're holding off a big defender. You've got a goalkeeper closing you. You're just trying to get a connection, to be honest with you. And I got a decent connection on that one. A lot of power off the left foot, and obviously it went through Arthur and managed to find its way in with the post, inside the post. So, I mean, a wonderful start. Again, a wonderful start to the game, and puts us 2-0 up after 14, 15 minutes. And it gives you that position in the game to really go and get the 3 points. And these Old Firm games at the start, these first ones of the season, are really, really important, because it's probably going to give you an edge. It's probably going to give you an edge in the league. As much as it might be 4th, 5th or 8th game in, it's always going to give you that little edge at that point, probably, unless you've had a real poor start to the season and dropped some points. But like you've seen with the Old Firm game this season, I think even that's had a big bearing on actually what's going on in the city at the moment. So, yeah, huge games, and really important that you get those 3 points in that first Old Firm game.
And a lovely wee celebration after the second goal there, Kenny, as well, in front of the away fans.
It sure was. I think it was carrying Nazy on my back. I think Nacho was there. Big Boydie was hanging off the neck. It was, again, see, when you look back on it, it's wonderful, wonderful memories. And I can still live like what I felt when you're scoring these goals. It was an incredible feeling, an incredible feeling to score goals in these. It's because you care so much. It means a lot to me. I know how much it meant to everybody else, and the players and the club and the fans. These games are huge. And like I said, I was really, really fortunate that I had a few good days in those games.
Definitely, and that was a rich spell of form for the club. Obviously, Walter had really set out a really good team. Moving forward, I think I know where you're going now. Where would you go next?
Yeah, we're going to move forward to the cup final.
One of my favourites, yes, brilliant.
And the League Cup final, 9 men against St Mirren. Backs against the wall. What's interesting about the cup final? So we played Falkirk in the Scottish Cup final the year before, And I think Big Yogi was the manager of Falkirk at the time, and they absolutely outplayed us. You know, they really did. And then Nacho came on at half time, wrapped one at the top corner just after half time. Wonderful goal. And listen, I wouldn't say we hung on, but it's a 1-0. It's a narrow victory. And you know, at the end of a game, anything can happen when teams start throwing the kitchen sink at you to try and get an equaliser or try and get back into the game. But we held on, we won the game. And that St Mirren game was similar. I thought there was a real inquest at half time, and Walter had to come in and kind of told a few people, again, me being one of them, to shut the fuck up and sit down and listen. And we did, obviously. As soon as Walter speaks, you listen. So he read the riot act a little bit, because we never played well. We were probably second best in a lot of areas of the field. So that was maybe the bit up the backside that we needed. We came out and we'd already went down to 10 men. And then within about 10 to 12 minutes, we're down to 9 men. So you're thinking, oh my God, it's going to be one of these days. It's going to be one of these days where we're actually going. And you know, this time we were actually going for the treble. This time there was treble talk even this early in the season, because I think we were well clear in the league. We were still in the Scottish. Sorry, we had just been knocked out, I think, of the Scottish Cup the week before. So that's what it was. There'd been treble talk, and we lost the Scottish Cup replay to Dundee United. We were 3-1 up at Ibrox, and we conceded 2 goals in the last 5-10 minutes, I think, and it was a 3-3 draw. Really poor, really poor. And then we went up to Tannadice and lost the replay. So we were out of that, and then we had the cup final, I think, at that weekend. And then we're down to 9 men with half an hour to go, and you're thinking, oh my God, treble, you're lucky if we might only end up with the league. And sure enough, like, we hung on, and there was backs to the walls. Walter had came down for the stand, because I think he had let Ali and Kenny McDowell kind of take the team for the cup games, and everything had been pretty smooth sailing up until that moment. And obviously the shit had hit the fan when we had a couple of players being sent off. So Walter was down pulling the strings on the touchline. I don't think he sat down in the last 30-35 minutes, and he was pulling you back, he was pushing you forward, he was moving your positions, and I don't even think we had a formation at that point. It was just all hands on deck. So sure enough, 85 minutes, they try to play a wee bit of clever player in the box. Big Davy reads it like he did, stepped out, slipped the ball out wide to Nazy, who for some reason seemed to be able to run 60 yards unchallenged. Put the inch perfect cross into both me in the centre, and Nacho was at the back trying to break her necks to get forward, and I managed to get the perfect header. But I think it's the only place it could have went, and I think even the trajectory at dropping and bouncing into the corner just gave the keeper, it made it extra hard for him. And again, that goal in particular, I remember now when I jumped the fencing at Hampden and ran across the fans, and I was shaking the gate. It was a gate, and I can still feel, and I look at it and I think, you know, I was absolutely out of breath, like the breath had been sucked out of me, because I knew I just scored what potentially was a cup final winning goal. Incredible, absolutely incredible moment to do that with 9 men. But what I said at the time, that was testament to what that team was about. We found a way, you know, we found a way to win. That was it. Yeah, we had a poor result against Dundee United in the week leading into it, I think, and we got knocked out of the Scottish Cup. That ended any kind of treble talk. And we're 9 men in a cup final, but we found a way to get it done. You know, we found a way to win the game and get the job done. And it was an amazing day for a player. When you're growing up, you dream about scoring goals, winning goals in cup finals, and that was a winning goal in a cup final, and it was amazing, an amazing day. Another bit of silverware in the locker for the team and for the club. Another winner's medal for all the players involved. So it was an incredible day.
Before I ask you the kind of, you know, the next part of it, that day in the cup final, I don't know if you kind of noticed this as a player at the time, but the roar when that goal went in was phenomenal. It was like relief, excitement, ecstatic. Do you ever kind of look back and as part of your memories think, wow, you know, what a noise that day? Because I remember being in Hampden that day and everybody was down. You know, we were kind of thinking this is potentially a massive upset and things, but that moment, that cross, the whole aftermath. Do you ever think, you know, about the fans' reaction?
Well, I do, because, you know, when you say that, all these emotions that you've just described is exactly what I was going through at the same time. That's why I think the breath was sucked out of me. You know, I'm going wild on the gates in front of the Rangers fans, and I'm feeling the exact same thing. And I'm sure that probably the rest of the players are feeling the exact same thing. It is the adrenaline rush when you score a goal is incredible. Any goal, by the way, is incredible. But to score it on that stage, like in those circumstances, at that time in a cup final, you're bringing all that relief, that joy, that excitement, that energy. You're bringing that out, and it was so. Yeah, you do think it. You do look at it because you know exactly how the fans are feeling, because they'll be thinking exactly what we're thinking. Here we go. Like, this is going to be what a letdown of a week this is going to be. So to get that goal, and like you say, all the emotions that you just described is all rolled into one. It's an incredible feeling. Like I say, watching that back, I can still picture it, and I can still remember exactly how I felt shaking that gate, and it was an unbelievable feeling. And then everybody's jumped the hoardings as well when we're all celebrating in front of the fans. It was an incredible moment.
Yeah, it definitely was. And going forward into the next season, there was obviously the contractual problems, but in that 6 months before you went to Bursaspor, you scored, I think, 22 goals, and you produced some of the best forward play and some of the best finishing that I've seen as a Rangers fan going to the games over the years. And you scored some beauties, obviously the volley at Celtic Park, even out in Bursaspor, the finish, the goal up at Aberdeen. Is there any that year that stand out for you?
Well, again, all the ones you've mentioned. I mean, again, it was a real hot streak. I think I scored in the first 6 games. I think I had 10 goals in the first 6 league games. And again, important goals. When you think of the Aberdeen game, we're 2-0 down. We're 2-0 down at Pittodrie in the first half, and then managed to get a penalty. We put the penalty away, and we come back out in the second half, and I kind of rattle one in with Steve. I think it was Nazy to Devo to myself, and then and I managed to plant it in. Not actually unlike a goal I scored up there a few years later as well, in a half volley, and a 3-0 win. So it was all the goals were. But again, going back to the first Old Firm game of the season. And that I think, I'm sure if I remember right, it was 9th game. It was the 9th game that year, and both teams had won 8 for 8. And so it was billed as obviously the 2 teams, 100% records, blah blah blah, the unstoppable thing, but against the immovable object. That type of thing was going into that game on Sky Sports, and we go 1-0 down. You know, I think there was a run of games over that spell where we went 1-0 down. Maybe 3 or 4 games in a row. Maybe the Celtic game was the 4th game in a row where it went 1-0 down and came back and won. So we're 1-0 down at half time. And within 23 minutes of the second half, we're 3-1 up. It was just, the team was just incredible. You know, it was relentless. We knew what we wanted. With a taste of winning leagues and winning trophies, and we didn't want to give it up. You know, and we didn't want to give it up. And we came back into that game, and it was just an incredible run of personal form over that moment. But that game again stands out. Like I said, the goals and the amount of goals that were scored over that. But again, we had a really fantastic, really good team at that moment, and also a really good strike partner in Jelavic. One of the things that was talked about kind of prior to that season was Big Boydie had just left, and it's how would we fill the void of him leaving and the amount of goals that would be missing for the team. Big Yellow got injured. I think it was in maybe the 5th or 6th game of the season, and he was missing for a little bit, but it had a real impact on the team initially. But something that really meant a lot to me that year was that I got the number 9 jersey. So Super Ali was one of my heroes growing up, and when I came to the club, obviously Big Boydie had it. He's a goal machine. He had the Rangers number 9 on his back. And when he left, wee Jimmy asked me if I wanted it, and I was like, of course, it's going to be a real proud moment to wear that jersey, have the number 9 with Miller over the top. So I took it on, and again, we're talking about incredible goals and big games and real moments. Well, my first goal as a Rangers number 9 came off my back. It was in the first game of the season against Kilmarnock, and it was a corner, I think, and there was a scramash. And I think Big Broadfoot had a shot, and then it got blocked, and somebody else had a block, and somebody tried to clear it. And I turned round, and it hit my back. So it hit the number 9 and flew into the back of the goal. And I thought, maybe I'm getting a bit of Big Boydie's luck. Maybe I'm going to get a bit of a run of goals and things. And sure enough, like you say, I think it was 21 league goals in 17 or 18 games before obviously I moved on. It was just a phenomenal run of games and goals. And again, having that number 9 on my back was something that was a real proud moment for me.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not ashamed to say that run of form, that 6-month period was some of the best I've seen. Absolutely incredible, really was red hot. But you move on, and then obviously you return. Is there any kind of favourite goals from the kind of Warburton era and things like that?
Yeah, I'll go 2 over this time because it was a change over this time, coming back to the club where there wasn't many people left that had been at the club. It was a completely different environment, to be honest, and I found it tough initially. But a couple of goals that stand out was obviously the one I think you mentioned before, Inverness. That was my 100th goal, so that was a special strike. Again, a good assist from my big mate Lee Wallace, absolutely terrorising people down that left flank. And it's one of the few times actually the big man crossed it. He normally looked for a pass or a cut back, or he was always looking for a teammate and to pick somebody out rather than actually just put the ball into the box aimlessly. And he's seen me, there's no doubt about it. He's seen me, and again he's crossed it to the back post, picked me out expertly, and I just managed to get the perfect connection on the volley and it threw into the net. And it was a special way to get your 100th goal for the football club. But again, it turned out to be a winning goal that night as well, which was important. So I'd have that one, and then I think we'll go to the semi-final, goal against Celtic. So there was so much getting built up about that game, and obviously we were in the Championship. I think we'd either just clinched the Championship or we clinched it the following week. So it was in and about that time where we had the Petrofat Cup final at Hampden. We had a game to clinch the league. I think it was against Alloa at home. And we had the Celtic semi-final at Hampden, and obviously nobody gave us a chance. But I genuinely, we went into that game super, super confident, based on the way we were playing. Obviously, we were playing at a lower level, so we were winning most weeks, so confidence was high. We were a new group. We were a new group as well under Mark and Davey, that had a lot of new players that maybe never had scars that other teams or dressing rooms had. And we went into the game so confident. And I remember me and Lee were rooming together the night before the game, and we actually ran through how the game was going to go, what we thought, how we could be successful, what we needed to stop. And the game, because of the way we worked, the way we prepared for it under Mark, the game pretty much went how we thought it would. We knew they would fancy themselves strongly, and rightly so. They would be favourites, but we just thought, we could maybe catch them on the hop a little bit. They might not be expecting us to. Still, again, a lot was made about the style under Mark and whether it was right or wrong. But people kind of thought, there's no way they'll be able to do that against a Celtic team. This team are better, they're stronger, they're filled with kind of serial title winners and trophy winners, but there's no way they'll play like that. And we did. We went out and we played the way we played all season, whether it would be Alloa at home or going away to a Falkirk or whatever. We played the same way. We did, and we got the goal early with reserve. I had a chance beforehand that Craig Gordon actually made a really good save, which was from a really, really good move right to the back. Barry Mackay ended up putting a ball over the top for a run. I got a decent touch and a decent strike away that Craig Gordon saved. But then we got the opening goal. Again, it was thoroughly deserved. Yeah, they had a few chances, but they're a good team. They were always going to get chances and opportunities. And I know we won the game on penalties, but I really felt that we really deserved that result. And maybe that little break in the penalty shootout based on how the game went. So that was a goal. Again, a real big moment. That's another one of these games that the emotion after it, when that penalty flew over the bar for Rogic, the place, you just look at what it meant to everyone. I remember seeing Big Davy Lavery and Jimmy Bell, and they're jumping about like lunatic. I think Big Lavy was actually crying at the time. It was an incredible. It was a bit of a statement. It was a statement for the club that, listen, we're coming back and we're hoping that we can kick on and start to be competitive again at the top league. Listen, it never quite went that way. It's definitely one of the things that I look back and I wouldn't say regret, because I tried everything I could to be the player I could to try and help it, but not getting that opportunity to win a title or at least give it a good go in the next 2 years was definitely something I look back on. And it's, like I said, not regret, because there's only so much you can do, but it's something you look back, it was a wee bit disappointing they never mounted a better challenge over the next couple of years. So yeah, huge game, but another good goal, followed by another goal in the final, but I don't even want to talk about that because we lost the game. But yeah, big game, big moment, and ultimately I think it made them make a big step in appointing Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, again, I was there that day, a phenomenal day. But there was a real air of confidence. Kenny, it's been a privilege to talk to you. I know Chris is kind of going to cut in with one last one kind of regarding Scotland, but I just want to say personally, I had a great time watching you. You scored some wonderful goals for Rangers. Are you still able to kind of? I know you're having a great time out in Australia. You've already told us it's 35 degrees out here while we're all sitting in Glasgow freezing. But how are you enjoying it out there? Are you still managing to see Rangers?
Yeah, I am. Yep, I've had any opportunity I can. I mean, again, sometimes the late, like the European games are that, like the time difference is that much that we probably get it early in the morning, maybe about 7 o'clock in the morning. If it's the 8 o'clock kickoff one, it's 7 o'clock in the morning here, so we can get to watch that. Or the Sunday games are kicking off at 12 o'clock. We get them at 11 o'clock at night, so I'll stay up and watch. And again, the team's looking great. It's looking a really, really good place. They look so happy and content about the way they're playing, the shape, their style, scoring incredible amounts of goals, looking dangerous. And again, it's very similar to last season. That's why I'm trying to not get too carried away, because I had us down to win it last year. And I got to say, the wheels fell off a little bit after the winter shutdown. But again, I said, I sense a different vibe for the team this year. Again, looking unstoppable at the moment. So it's good to see. Again, let's hope the lads can see it through over the course of the season and not just half the season. And let's hope we can get that title back.
Just to round off, then we better really mention your Scotland career. A man that gave such great service to the national side over the years. You've unfortunately missed out on the chance to get to the Euros, but I'm assuming you are as delighted, as proud as empty to see the job that Steve Clarke's done over the last 18 months or so, and to see Scotland finally getting back to that stage. It's been a long time coming.
Incredible, yeah, absolutely delighted. I was in work watching the penalty shootout. I thought it was going to be another one of these near misses and tough, hard luck stories with conceding the goal in the last minute. But fantastic character for the boys to pick themselves back up for that. And you know what? We were so comfortable in the game. Going away to Serbia, I thought, listen, I'll be honest, I never fancied us based on it being an away game in Serbia and them being a really good team. But we were actually really, really comfortable throughout the game. Probably deserved to win it over the course of the 90 minutes, so definitely deserved to go through. Delighted for everybody involved. My big mate Mhairi saved that penalty, somebody who deserves it as well. Works ever so hard. He's had a long career, distinguished career, and again had to wait and fight and bide his time to maybe get that number 1 jersey. But again, he's done it. He's been rewarded for it, and so everybody deserves the opportunity to go to the Euros next summer. Fantastic achievement for everybody involved. You know, again, delighted for Steve Clarke, the players again in the Tartan Army. Obviously, they've followed the team and they've suffered so much over the last 22 years, and know when everybody's going away in the summer tournaments, they've not had the opportunity, and they're the best fans about in the national game. And it's I'm sure they're looking forward to next summer. Let's just hope they can make the trip and get into the games.
Okay, so a huge thank you, Kenny. We've had a wonderful time hearing your stories. You're a Rangers 11 and your goals has been fantastic. Just to wish you all the best out in Australia. Hope you have a good Christmas. Hope you're able to come back and see the family and things. And thanks again for coming on.
No problem, guys. Loved it. Anytime.
Thanks very much, Kenny. All the best. So, Chris, Mhairi, some wonderful stories from Kenny's time. I won't apologise again for saying it. Some of the goals and some of the form we've seen from Kenny Miller. Chris was up there with some of the best forwards we've seen in the time at Rangers over the last 10, 15 years, certainly.
His Rangers career fits in quite nicely to the 3 stages of my Rangers career, if you like. And I remember him, his first spell watching on the TV. Remember him, his second spell going as a fan, and then remember him from his third spell. I've been lucky enough to see him in action from the press box, and obviously work alongside him and interview him on several occasions. He's always a great guy to speak to. He speaks so honestly, so openly. There's some great stories. The team that he picked there would win the league 9 times out of 10. I think there's some great players and there's some great memories, great goals, and certainly wish him all the best down under. I'm sure he'll go on and make a success of his managerial career. I'm interested if I ever see him back in Scotland in the dugout as well. But nice to hear that he's doing well. Nice to hear that he's still keeping an eye on Rangers, and a really great chat. So thanks very much for Kenny to come on and share his time and his stories with us.
Yeah, Mhairi, you must have enjoyed watching Kenny Miller. You're obviously a bit younger than myself. That would have been basically, you growing up watching Kenny play, and how much did you enjoy seeing him in Rangers colours?
Yeah, similar to what Chris said. I was, I think, 9 or 10 when he first started at Rangers in his first spell. Obviously, at his last spell, I think I was nearly probably 20 something. I've lost count of my age now. So yeah, he's a player that I've grown up with, seeing in and around Rangers squads for a long time. And as he mentioned, some of his goals were so crucial in a lot of the things that we achieved at the club. So yeah, it's been a really fantastic chat, and I think when I was having a look at his career with us, and obviously he's starting 11 there. Just something absolutely incredible players, and through various spells at the club. So we've all had the highs of his early spell, talking about the guys with the kind of Dutch Revolution. He was right involved in the middle of that, as well as from our lower division days when things were a wee bit tougher, but having experienced guys like him in the team really did make a huge difference for us. So yeah, it's been a really fantastic chat, and yeah, just wish him all the best over in Australia. I'm slightly jealous of his weather conditions right now.
Yeah, I think we all three of us are. Kenny obviously is 11 hours ahead of us, so we were up at 6:30 this morning to record this. It's absolutely freezing cold, and Kenny had great delight. Had a wee chuckle in telling us it was 35 degrees out where he is, so that's not bad going, Chris. Earliest you've ever interviewed anyone?
Very, very much so. I've done a few guys in America and in the Far East, but strange time differences. But no, getting up the back of 60 prepare for this one was certainly something a bit out of the ordinary, but certainly worth it. I can add that one into the great guests that we've had on the podcast. Another couple to go, and I'm sure the Rangers fans will love one going through Kenny's team and some of the memories of those players, and certainly going through some of the goals that he scored over his spell. So it's certainly worth the early rise, and I say hopefully the Rangers fans really enjoy what we've managed to put out once again. Yeah,
as Chris mentioned there, this is episode 28 of the podcast. All the podcasts are available. You can search on any musical platform. Obviously, if you're listening to it now on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, whatever you're listening to, you'll find our back episode. There is 28. If you look on our Instagram page at 4LadsHadADream blog, you will find all 28 episodes with links to them there. As I said, Kenny was a brilliant guest for us. There's a couple more before we get to episode 30 and we finish. The reasons for us finishing is basically just that we've got new projects obviously to go to, and we don't want to overstay our welcome. We've had a fantastic time. We've had some brilliant top guests. To have Kenny Miller on, who's a real winner, knows what it takes to play for Rangers, won trophies, delivered trophies, scored big goals, has been incredible. Hopefully our final two guests will just be as exciting. And before we finish, to thank our sponsors, KGM Printing. They've just opened a new shop as well. They are fantastic. Without them, we couldn't do it. If you go and check them out at KGM Printing on Twitter, you'll find out everything. And they're affiliated. They're doing really well. They're affiliated to several clubs, Hibs, I think Hearts, Derby. And they make all their basically merchandise for them. Do some great Ranger stuff as well. I've got some of it and it's fantastic. And also to the Custom Kitchen Factory boys, Ali over there, have been a huge help to this blog and podcast ever since we started. You can find them out as well, Custom Kitchen Factory. And I know a lot of Rangers fans that have followed. I've spoke to them. They have actually had kitchens and things from the boys fitted, and the work is outstanding. And finally, obviously, to our friend Stuart Franklin over at Gersnet. Gersnet have been fantastic, and Stuart's been brilliant for me personally. We couldn't do it without him because I don't know how to edit this. We can record it just about, I think, and me and Chris and Mhairi herself we've had some funny moments trying to get podcasts put together. But a huge thank you also to Chris and Mhairi for joining me. And I've had a great time doing these things. A couple more to go. So hope you will enjoy them. But until next time, thank you everybody for listening. Please check out 4LadsHadADream. We're on Twitter. There's weekly blogs covering everything from the men to the women's team. This week we had a financial blog as well from Ross McAdam, who joined us to give you a financial breakdown. So there's lots of input and things on the site for you to check out. Until next time, please join us for our remaining episodes, and thanks for your time. ignore the nonsense, the irrelevant, and the noise. And good luck to the team and the management going forward. We've been in great form. So come on, the Glasgow Rangers.